Do extrinsic rewards work for reading and motivation? I'm Dr. Emily Sherwood. For more information about literacy from a global perspective, please like and subscribe. So it's the end of the school year here in the United States, and my stepchildren are having a lot of extra activities, field trips, and my stepson graduated from 8th grade. Very happy about that. And all of those things made me think about everything that happens at the end of the year. And one of the things that happens at the end of the year, often in the United States, is that there's a special field trip or a party or some kind of extrinsic reward for children who do well. And often now that's behavior. There's kind of what you call a token economy, where you have like a booth where the children can buy things. They get tickets for doing well and buy things. And there's also rewards still oftentimes for reading, especially in the lower grade. There are all these programs where children have to read so many books a year, or they read the most in their class, and they get something special. And it made me think about when I was in the 5th grade. I was a huge reader. I was kind of a nerd. I was a nerd. There wasn't no kind of. I was a nerd. And I was the only child, and I read just all the time, because I got bored easily, and that was something I could do, and it was easy. And at that time, there were books all over the place, and my family was really into books. We had a lot of books. And the 5th grade was the year that Accelerated Reader was introduced. And those of you who are not from the United States, Accelerated Reader is a program where students read books and they take tests based on the books, and they get points for the books. And it's actually gotten so big that in some of the schools I worked at in East Tennessee, they part of their grade also came from their work in Accelerated Reader. But at that time, it was a brand new thing, and it was really exciting. And I read all these books, and at the end of the year, I was one of, I believe, 4 kids who were the top 4 readers in my grade. And we got a breakfast with a news anchor. And I remember it was so weird because we were in the library, and at that time, the librarian for elementary school, it was a grade 2 through 8 school, which is pretty unusual in the United States, but it was a grade 3 through 8 school. And the librarian for elementary school was really warm and loving, and I actually knew her and her family because through some church connections, and actually babysitting for her grandchildren. That's another story, when I was in high school. But anyway, she was just very kind and warm and giving and fun. And then the middle school librarian was also there, and she was kind of intimidating, and she had 6 fingers on one hand. So there was a lot of talk in the school about how weird this person was, and there were rumors that she was like a witch, which she wasn't. She was actually really good at her job. She was a really good librarian. But to be 10 years old, to be sitting with someone who was supposedly a witch because she had 6 fingers on her hand was just weird. It was just odd. The news anchor was kind of rude. I remember I asked her some questions, and she acted like she didn't want to answer them. So I left that party thinking, why did I read this much? Why did I go through all of this and read so much just for this party that I didn't even really like? And that kind of is the attitude that many students have when it comes to extrinsic rewards. So extrinsic rewards are rewards that people get for doing something, but they're physical rewards, or they can be something like extra time or a trip or something like that, an experience. But they're outside rewards. They're outside of the person, the individual. So again, in the United States, there are all these behavior systems now where you get, tickets for being good, or you have a team, and sometimes in reading also, you get tickets for being good, or you get a compliment, or you get extra points, and then you can basically exchange that for a reward, and they're usually things like pencils or paper, and sometimes you can even save up and get things like books or stickers or something that you really want. But the research actually shows that extrinsic rewards are not, for the most part, are not a good idea. That means getting kids things, and especially things that have little value. So Linda Gambrell, a very good reading researcher from here in South Carolina who actually passed last year, her and Barbara Moronick, who's a professor in Maryland, they actually wrote a book, and the book was called Stop Giving Kids Junk for Reading. And their whole idea in the book is that students don't respond very well when they just get trivial things like stickers or, candy or whatever they can get from the shack. When they go to exchange their ticket, or they can earn things. And what they found in a lot of their research was that intrinsic rewards are better. So what are intrinsic rewards? Intrinsic rewards are things that come from the individual. So intrinsic rewards may be the satisfaction of reading a book about something that's interesting to you and learning about that. It may be the curiosity you get from that book. It may be the satisfaction of being able to read a hard book, getting through that hard book and being proud of yourself, the pride that you have in that. Things like that are much better than junk. And if you do give students extrinsic rewards, the research found that those rewards need to be meaningful and they need to somehow link to intrinsic rewards. So, for example, these two authors, Gambrell and Mornick, the researchers, they suggest giving books as a reward because books are something that will motivate children even more. They provide an intrinsic reward by piquing children's interest, whether they're giving them stickers and lollipops and erasers and that kind of thing. Rewards also are best when they meet a need. So if you give a child something they really need or they think they need, then that's more helpful than just giving out stickers and erasers and things like that. So if a child thinks that they need to learn about something in a book, then the child will work for that book, perhaps. So the token reward system is not really good. And this totally goes against what schools have been doing, particularly for about the last probably 15 years, where students get rewards for everything. You answer a question right, you get a reward. You behave in class like you're supposed to anyway, you get a reward. You have your parents sign something, you get a reward. They're just really into rewards. And as a teacher, especially my last few years, it was almost hard to keep up with. There was a system, and you had to remember how many points a student got and rewards, and I was working at multiple schools, and so I had to remember all the school systems and remember how many points to give for each thing, and it just got really confusing, and the kids would often become very distracted with the rewards. They would be like, where's my dojo point? Dojo was the system. Do I get a point for this? Can I get a point for my team? And it kind of like interrupted class. And then I had to go to the board and write point down, and it's just a lot of work to do that. And it kind of distracts from the main goal of learning, which is to learn. If all that you're doing is working towards points, then you get this idea that that's what learning is about. And reading is about, if you're talking about reading. It's not about learning new things. It's not about having an interest in something. It's just points. So for that reason, the research suggests that that extrinsic motivation is not the best thing. And that, again, goes against all conventional wisdom in education. And I remember I went to a conference a few years ago. So it was probably 2013 or 2014. I went to a reading conference, and I heard a very well-known speaker who I really liked. He was a good speaker. And he was talking about how when he taught, he would just give kids like squares of construction paper. These really needy, low-income English learners in California. They would just get like squares of paper, and they were so excited about that. And it's so important to reward kids all the time. And that's not what the research says at all. So I think this is another case of our society and the culture that we live in coming into the classroom and influencing in a way that is not necessarily positive. This whole idea that you have to reward students is actually part of the evaluation process. That's the evaluation that teachers are judged on. If the principal comes in and observes the class, they expect that teacher to reward students in some way. So again, the research shows that this culture of reward is not good. However, it is so ingrained in the schools now that's become part of the culture. So I'm interested. I have viewers from all over the world, and this is translated into different languages. I'm interested. When you were a kid, or if you have children, if you've seen this, or if you're a teacher and you've seen your children do this, what have your experiences been with reward systems? Because globally, this really varies, the idea of giving children rewards and the way that works. And so I'd love for you to write in the comments, some of your experiences with rewards. Were they good? Were they bad? Did they work? What did parents think of them? What do you think of them if you're a parent or a teacher? I would really love to hear from you. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and keep learning.